Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. How are you guys all doing tonight? Hey there, Library Lizard, Monkey Food Garden, Jody from Michigan, Library Lizard. Oh yeah, lots happening, Lizard. Very much so, very much so. It's I figured as much though. This has been that build-up's been going on for a couple of weeks, and it always happens after the markets close on Friday. Hey there, Dirt Farmer. Hope you're doing well down there in Louisiana, Monkey Food Garden. I went out and checked some of my stuff in the garden today because I don't know, it was about freezing most of the day. I the my strawberries are actually starting to green up a little bit, and I left some onions in the ground last fall, and they're all starting to green up. They're starting to look like they're coming alive. So already got stuff going on. Hey there, Sunset. Hey, Karen, prepper for the ages, whatever prepper, 1776 Gallo. How you guys doing? I got a new bar up here that's asking me questions. I don't even know it. Add stream marker. I don't even know what that means. Oh well, I'll have to talk with my IT people. Hey there, Coney. Yeah, we're expecting rain coming up here in the next few days, and then the temperatures are supposed to be warming up. We're supposed to get temps into the 40s and 50s. So starting to pick our first strawberries. That's cool, Monkey Food Garden. Yeah, we usually get our first strawberries end of May, first part of June is when we get them here. Hey, Patriot Preacher. Hey there, Sweet. It looks like everybody's starting to get notifications. That's cool. Hey there, Candace. Anyway, yeah, it was a very busy day on the YouTubes. I mean, I was out actually doing stuff today, but I'd pop in from time to time to check on what was going on. Hey there, Garden. 4 degrees. Yeah, that's what it should be at the end of February for us here. But the last few years, the winters have been milder. We still get cold weather in December and January, maybe the first little bit in February there, but by mid-February it starts to warm up for us now. Anyway, I'm no analyst, I'm no pundit, I'm no ex whatever, but the things that I've been seeing all day here, it happened right on cue, like it always does after the markets close on Friday. And of course, with I think most people are concerned about the distribution of oil, but there is one thing that I wanted to mention. Most of the oil that comes from Iran, especially, that goes to China. So the big thing with this whole action, and then that's another thing. I've seen so many fake videos today on different things or older footage that was shot, and tried to pawn off as new footage. I want everybody to take everything that they see with a grain of salt because there is so much of that AI and that kind of stuff out there. You can't 100% trust what you see on the internet. So that is something that I wanted to mention right off the get go. Most of the Iranian oil goes to China because of the sanctions and everything. So literally, we just attacked China's largest oil supplier. So that is sort of the problem. That's kind of I would say, the elephant sitting in the corner of the room of this whole situation. And I just seen, I don't know, probably about 5 o'clock my time that they had some kind of broadcast. They broadcast that they closed the Strait of Hormuz. Now, thinking back, I can't ever remember where the Strait of Hormuz was completely and totally closed. There was always some kind of shipping that was going on there. So that's a kind of a wait and see moment. And then, of course, they're shooting at pretty much everybody over there. So, they were showing high rise buildings in Dubai and stuff like that, all getting hit and on fire. That's a lot of economic interests there. So, what's going to happen as far as retaliation, as far as that goes? And if for some reason there's a strike against Aramco facilities, and I actually knew somebody that worked for Aramco back about 10, 15 years ago, and he'd come home for about 30 days, and then he'd go over there for 2 months, come home for 30 days. And he was kind of contracted to go over there and work out in the middle of the nowhere in these oil fields. And yeah, it was definitely a different experience. But Chinese and oil, that's the big thing that I'm taking from this, where there could be issues. And then the other thing is the Red Sea, the Bab el Mandeb Strait. And that is another thing. The Houthis were already shooting at ships going through that, and those ships going through there aren't always tankers. Those are cargo ships. There are ships that are hauling pharmaceuticals to North America and to Europe, out of India. Those big cargo ships, they got literally hundreds of millions of dollars worth of stuff on them. Sunset asked me this in the question when I put the a notice out for this live, to kind of comment on that shipping, and that is sort of my take on that. The two big things on top of the spike in the gas prices, and we seen the spike in the gas prices here on Thursday. Most places were between 279 and 289 a gallon for us here, and they went up to 319. Now today, some of them were back down to like 297, whatever. I'll almost guarantee by Monday they're going to go up again. So, the fluctuating gas price with this kind of stuff is sort of, that's a given to a certain extent. But those other, geopolitical things, like I said, Iran sells most of its oil to China. And if the Iranian, oil terminals and the Iranian refining capacity, if that gets struck, that is going to put a hurt. This right now is just the transportation of the oil. But if the facilities used to transport that oil are destroyed to a point where it's going to take months or years to repair those things, China is not going to be happy. And then there's going to, what's going to happen with that? So that is some of the things that I'm looking at. And then, of course, the Houthis were sinking, they sunk a few um, merchant vessels in the Red Sea. So I would almost guarantee that there's going to be some kind of attacks on that stuff too. And that with the Red Sea, that's just sort of calmed down a little bit here. And now it's, this is all firing back up again. So, that's sort of my take on all that. And, diesel fuel runs the world. Trucks run on diesel fuel, and everything you pretty much see around me here, except maybe my deer antlers hanging up there, has been transported here by some kind of truck. So, if the fuel prices go up, there's already, inflation. The inflation reports were all high last week on the stock market and stuff. So, that's all, you know, that's why we prep. I'm 100% confident in everybody watching this live stream that um, the that you guys are all squared away. But you know, I didn't do anything out of the ordinary for what's going on, except pretty much um, doing my usual, when I have a weekend off, I go grocery shopping, and that's kind of what I did today. And the stores were busy when I went in there, but it's just the stuff that we use. That's why I'm so keen on this. That once you have your pantry to a certain level, you have to work hard to keep it at that level. That it doesn't, you rotate the stuff out, the stuff that you use, you replace. That's a big one that gets, stuff gets swept under the rug really, really easy. And that's something that, I try to keep up on as much as possible, on top of, making sure that you have all your fuel stores already topped off. And that's something that I try to work on too. As soon as I, empty a gas can, or I empty a propane tank, I'm, within 24 hours, I usually get that filled right back up again, because you just never know. All right, I'm going to jump in here and look at, I'm kind of ignoring the chat here because I'm rambling on. I see hen houses in here. Tyler, Dana Green, how you doing? Journey with Nicole, Ambrose. Drops Homestead. Reason why all the oil futures went up. Oh, I'm sure they had a heads up. I'm sure they had a heads up. Just those main industries that are involved in all that. I'm sure that they get heads up on all that stuff. Uh, Although lots of Iran oils goes to China, a disruption can still raise. Oh yeah, it'll definitely raise the price. But I'm curious how China is going to react to that because that's the long term issue that I see. China needs a ton of oil to keep its economy going. And they're definitely not happy about all this. I'll guarantee that. Hey, they're Michigan Silverback. Yeah, I guarantee you they're not happy about that. And now going forward into the next week or so here, Monday morning, you're going to see how the markets are going to react to all this stuff. I guess the one thing that I guess everybody always talks about on the YouTube prepping channels is like sleeper cells. And I'm here to tell you, I'm in Michigan. So, Michigan's Lower Peninsula, we have a fair amount of those folks down in Dearborn that are of that descent. So it's going to be interesting to see how, that all reacts down there. And if anything pops off or I see anything locally here, I'm definitely going to mention it to you guys. $150 barrel oil. Yeah, we'll definitely see. Hey there, Fritz. Coney, get tires now. If you think you're getting close, tires have been crazy. We're actually pretty good on tires here. We got all kind of decent tires on all our stuff. We got one vehicle that keeps messing up on us, so hopefully that'll get straightened around here this week. Oh, bought some extra potting mix for the earth boxes. I'm thinking I'm going to work up my I'm going to be working up my garden early this year, and I'm going to try to put my potatoes in a little bit earlier than I normally do, just because there is. I like having my potatoes in the ground. I always feel better when I look out in the backyard and I see my 99 hills of potatoes growing. I see my camera's kind of messing up here a little bit. What's going on with that? Who knows? Who knows with this electronic stuff? China produces about 4.9 million barrels a day. Iran a little less. Hey, drops. Would you happen to know how many? What the usage rate is for China? How many million barrels of oil do they use in a day? No, Sunset. I've never grown mushrooms. I have seen mushroom kits um, in the stores and in the nurseries and stuff, but I've never actually grown them. Fritz, I ordered potato seed and starting my onion seed. I actually got quite a few potatoes that are starting to sprout down here in the basement, so I'll be probably planting some of those. Plus, I always get some reds from a local guy here too. Uh, but yeah, I really don't know how much oil that China uses in a day or a week, but I'm sure it's a lot. I'm sure it's probably just as much as what the United States uses. And the Western world runs on oil. Yeah, that I don't know, but they drive a lot of EVs. That would make sense, I guess, too. Can potatoes be grown indoors? I have tried it a couple of times and they don't get enough light. There's just not enough light in an indoor setting, even if you have a light directly above them. Potatoes need a ton of light. That's why it's always, if you could get potatoes in early in the spring when you're maximizing your light, that's always the issue. So that's kind of my answer to that there, Sunset. Oh, I'm sure that China mines coal. I'm China probably uses every single solitary bit of energy that they could possibly get their hands on. Putting in Yukon Golds and Michigan Reds this year, and like you, yeah, a lot more this year. As far as potato varieties, Pontiacs, red Pontiacs, and Kennebecks are another one that I've had good luck with. Yukon Golds are strictly for taste. I never get a huge you never get huge crops of Yukon Golds, but they taste so darn good, and that's part of the reason why I plant them. And my staple is russet or Burbank potatoes because they're just tough. They grow, I can leave the little runty ones down here in the basement in a box for 6 months, and they got leggy sprouts on them, and I can take those guys out, throw them in the ground when it warms up, and they'll start sprouting on me. So I kind of supply my own seed potatoes to a certain extent, and then I supplement with some of the other ones. And I've grown the purple potatoes too. I've actually had pretty good luck with the purple potatoes. Mom planted a lot of those purple potatoes, and it never bothered me one bit that they were purple. I've had some people say that they taste a lot different, but I could never tell any difference on them. Oh, thanks, CV Farmer. I appreciate that. Yeah, he asked me to talk, so you can see that's one thing I'm really good at is talking. So that was no big deal at all. I can the Yukon Golds and the Reds are for saving. Yeah, the Pontiacs. Yeah, I like red Pontiacs, and they're a quick potato. They don't. It doesn't take a long time for them to mature. If I plant them in April, around the second week, if as long as the weather's good, around the second week in July, I can usually start harvesting some of them. And if you know how to, you can actually not kill the plant and harvest a few of the potatoes. You can kind of go around at the bottom edge of the potatoes, pull a couple of potatoes out just for like a meal or whatever, and then kind of close the rest of it up and let the rest of the potatoes in there mature. And I've done that too. If you're really gentle, you can actually do that. You can harvest them while they're still growing to a certain extent. And sweet potatoes, I had actually really good luck a couple of years ago with sweet potatoes. I got some sweet potato vines, drops, homestead, and I planted them in 5-gallon pails with some really rich compost, and I kept them in the sunlight. I kept moving them around a little bit so they were constantly always in the sun. And I actually got quite a few sweet potatoes out of them. But now, here in the last couple of years, I have not seen as many sweet potato vine sets around here. That one year they were like all over the place, and then last year I didn't see any anywhere. So if I would see them, I would maybe grab some of those again. Lasota. I don't think I've ever heard of that one. Monkey Food Garden. Yeah, Kennebecs are pretty universally. Norlands are another one. Norlands are another potato that I've had pretty good luck with. Want to can this year? Going to try some dry canning. Then that's cool. Saving all the glass jars now. I worry those will dry up. Well, that's just, that goes back to, if you want to know what's going to sell in the next panic, look what sold in, the panic that took place in 2020. Those were the things that people wanted. So your seeds sold, your canning stuff sold, your cleaning stuff, your toilet paper sold, your canned goods, your stuff like your rice and your beans, your long-term dry goods. That's the stuff that sold. Yeast, that's the stuff that anybody that is kind of remotely self-sufficient and bakes their own bread and cans their own vegetables out of the garden stuff, that's stuff that they usually have on hand anyway. And especially with canning stuff, mom and grandma always kept a couple years worth of canning stuff there, because if you can't get it for some reason, you don't want to waste an entire summer's harvest because you couldn't get canning lids or something like that. And they got the tattlers and they got the stuff that you can reuse and stuff. But mom and grandma always used just the balls or the curs. Curs in particular, they always like the cur lids, especially. But that's all the same company now, Ball and Cur. Oh yeah, sweet potato fries, they're good to go. Yeah, we actually, as far as honey goes, we actually have my wife's friend started selling honey, and we actually bought, gosh, what did we get? I think we got like 3 quarts from them last fall, and that actually was actually really, really good honey. And of course, because we know them, we got probably a little better price than everybody else. Could not get a jar to save my soul in 2020, 2021. So I buy every yard sale now. Yeah, see, when my parents passed away, there were so many canning jars there. I ended up selling some of them, and I sold a few too many. And then, 7, 8 years down the road, I started regretting selling all those canning jars. So I ended up buying some of them. But I haven't bought any now in a few years, like probably 2 years since I bought any canning jars. But if I still would see some that were a good price, I would still have a hard time not getting them. And all my yeast, I keep everything in the freezer. I keep all the yeast in the freezer. You can sometimes quadruple the time on that if you can. Oh yeah, I got quite not a ton, but I do have some venison left from that roadkill. Do you tap your trees to make maple syrup? I have already, but I didn't this year. I kind of missed the boat. The first 2, 3 warm days that we had about 2 weeks ago in February, that's when the syrup or when the sap is actually the best. And I kind of missed the boat on it. And now it's almost too late. The sap isn't the primo quality like it is at the very first couple of warm days. Hey boss. MR, did you see that a massive amount of recalls from General Mills? No, actually, I didn't see that. Of course, I don't really buy General Mills, that's cereal and stuff, and I don't really buy anything like that. Maybe when the kids were little, but I can't even tell you the last time I bought a box of cereal. If I want, some cereal or something like that in the morning, I'll just make oatmeal, what I already have here. Well, dog, I appreciate you here. MR, if you get honey that is local to your area, it helps with oh yes, of course. Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, local honey has always got the all the local allergens in it, so it's kind of like an immune booster. It's sort of like an allergy shot that you drink, more or less. And I like a little bit of honey in my tea, so that goes back to when I had my health scare there. I Tea was one thing that I could tea with a little bit of honey is one way I could get some calories, and it was still considered a clear liquid. So when I was on the 6 week fast there, it was something that I could still take, and it didn't bother me. It was way more than cereal. Yeah, I'll check that out, Library Lizard, see if I see anything. Well, the other, going into this week here, I guess we should expect some kind of cyber problems. That's always a big thing, because all our adversaries are in all our computer systems. It doesn't matter whether it's utilities or if it's banking, communications. So I would almost guarantee that there's going to be some type of communication issues. And the last 2 to 3 weeks anyway have been the internet around here has just been kind of crappy. It's been spotty. It's been going down. You got to reboot everything all the time, and it's not just here at home, it's also at work. So that's stuff that people got to keep an eye on. And two is the have a little cash on hand, because if those debit cards quit working, I'm going to say 70% of the transactions I see in a day are credit or debit card related. And then the rest are either cash or, charge, that kind of thing. And I think that we go through more cash transactions than an average store does. For us, I mean, we do a fair amount of cash transactions because we have a lot of older people around here. We've got some people that even use checks yet, and there's a lot of places that don't even take personal checks anymore. So that's something, keep that in mind, because if they can knock that down, that's going to cause some real problems. Uh, you know, Civil unrest, that's a wait and see type thing. I noticed that I seen there were some protests and stuff in London and whatnot and over there in Europe, but Europe has got their own set of issues. But I guess we're going to find out come Monday, Tuesday, how that's all going to go. But the markets, the gas prices, the oil prices, cyber attacks, especially something, that can shut down like the banking or the communication. People can't use their cell phones. They get pretty darn upset if you can't text and you can't make a phone call to somebody. People get upset, and that's why I through one of these guys in all our vehicles. So, we still have a little bit of a communication issues or communication ability with my GMRS license. So, you know, if I'm within 4 or 5 miles of my family and we all crank on them on the same frequency, we can still communicate back and forth. Hey there, Roman Prepper, how you doing? So, what's your analysis of what's going on? You're more of an analytic than I am. I'm kind of just a hick from the sticks. Uh, Stocked up on ball pipe jars a couple summers ago, and the jars that sell the quickest are always the wide mouths because they're so much easier to fill, so much easier to get the stuff out there. Sort of everybody goes for the wide mouth stuff before the regulars. Oh, checks are ridiculously expensive, Patriot Preacher. I mean, checks are pushing between 75 cents and $1 a check anymore. And there's some places, they want to charge you to use a debit card if you're paying things. I've switched to using checks for some basic utilities and stuff that I pay locally here because you don't get charged for those checks because they want to charge more and more to use some type of debit card. So I try to keep my options open. So some of the things I've switched over to check. You remember the AT&T nationwide outage? I was stuck in the Everglades with no communication. That sucks, Hawkmeyer. Yeah, that'd be awful. Cash is king, or silver. Yep. Yeah, I don't have any of them rapid radios yet. I have seen some commercials and stuff for them. Well, the wife and I, we've been talking about going and hitting some of the Amish stores because it's been a while since we've been there, but we haven't had a day off that aligned up together. So I noticed they are asking for exact change. Yeah, we got a couple places around here that want to they're like, oh, they just round everything up to the next highest nickel or whatever that is. Well, I think that's a little bit crooked. So I stopped going to those places, or I only go there unless I have no other choice. But yeah, there are places around here that started doing that too. Well, that's good, roaming prepper. Let me know if you need any advice on canning. I can probably help you out there. You have to pay a yearly subscription with Rapid Radios. Well, I guess I didn't know that, so that would make sense. That reminds me, is that Rapid Radios? Remember the old Nextel phones? They were a cell phone, but then they had like this walkie-talkie feature on it where you could call back and forth to like the friends or whoever was on your plan or whatever. I remember there were some couple people around here that I knew that used those things pretty extensively for both work and for personal use. But boy, that had to been 25 years ago. Sunset TD Bank has something called complete checking for 60 years, no charge for checks, $1 minimum, must have one auto deposit. Oh, I guess that's a pretty good deal. Hey, Tammy. Hey, Hudson Valley. How you doing tonight? And with the more light coming in, the chickens are doing. All the people that I know that got chickens, the chickens will be firing up and throwing eggs at them here before too long. And yeah, so today I went and got a few groceries and stuff, and tomorrow I'll go see the in-law or my mother-in-law there in the care facility, see how she's doing and stuff, and if there's anything that we need, I'm going to stop and pull that stuff out. One thing I wanted to mention, you know, I can a lot of chicken. Canned chicken is one of our staple protein preps, basically. I always keep a lot of canned chicken here of a bunch of different I got commercially canned chicken, and then I got my home canned chicken that are the bigger quarts if we need a bigger meal of it. One of the things that I make with that canned chicken is I'll drain it, save the broth for something else. I'll drain it, I'll break it up. I'll add about a quarter cup of, and I'm talking, this is about, for a 2 quart or a quart can that has 2 pounds. of raw chicken in it, because a quart can holds 2 pounds of raw chicken before you can it, and you put very little water in it, but it makes its own broth. So I'll drain that, save the broth for something else. I'll take that canned chicken and I'll break that up. And then I will add about a quarter cup of taco seasoning into that, and a dash of oregano and a dash of chili powder. I'll mix that up good. I'll shred some cheddar cheese into that, and then I'll take tortillas and I'll put that mixture on a tortilla, lay another tortilla on top of that, and I put that on my griddle and I make chicken quesadillas with that, which is basically like a chicken grilled cheese sandwich, basically. And that has always been an easy meal to make with, kind of shelf stable stuff with the cheese. Cheese keeps. And I mean, there's been times that I've actually waxed cheese, there's times that I froze cheese, but I always got some kind of just basic cheddar cheese here. But that right there is a really good hearty meal. Then if you make some Spanish rice or you make some, black beans or something with that, you got a really, really good meal. And that's actually what I'm going to make with the chicken quesadillas tomorrow when I make them, is I'm going to make them with my black beans that I always make. And that's basically everything out of the pantry. And so that is something that I do with the canned chicken. Hen house got 4 eggs out of 5 chickens today. That's awesome. Yeah, we got a couple of guys that I deliver. If I don't deliver them, one of the other guys deliver to them. They go through probably 30 bags of cracked corn plus some other supplemental feeds in a week. So they're constantly coming in and purchasing feed. I think we have 100. That's about what I got, Monkey Food Garden. About 100 quarts is what I have. Plus, I've picked up the commercial canned stuff too, but they're just in little cans. There's hardly enough in there for a meal for a family. Oh yeah, they're always culling chickens because of some kind of bird flu or whatever. And a lot of times I think that they're jumping the gun on that stuff when they destroy all those birds and all those animals. Ooh, make a lot of steak enchiladas and freeze them. We do enchiladas quite a bit too. I have some friends down in the Southwest. Occasionally, they'll send me a package of dried hatch chilies, and I'll make a little red sauce out of them and make my own enchilada sauce. That's pretty darn good stuff too. You can grow dog food treats, carrots, sweet potatoes, squash. Oh yeah, we make our own dog food too, to a certain extent. Every so often I'll get it in my head that I want to make some dog food, and I'll fire up the rice the rice cooker, and I'll make that, put some mixed vegetables, put some ground beef or chicken or something, some good protein in it for the puppies, and then we'll supplement that with actual bought and dog food. It's much better for them. If anyone used a rock pot, it's a crock pot that doesn't require electricity. No, but I've done the kind of the hay box cooking already. It's basically you bring everything up to temperature. You bring everything up to temperature in your Dutch oven, and you put that in a wooden box or some type of container that's lined with straw, and you put that in there and you cover that up, and it holds the heat in there, and it actually finishes the cooking process, so you don't have to use as much fuel. And that was actually really big during World War II. Henhouse, Modern Refugee, did I see my ham radio comment? Let me look back here. I don't believe that I did. Yeah, everybody likes my chicken quesadillas. I guess I missed it there, Henhouse. I guess I missed it. You'll have to maybe repeat it, and I'll look at it for you. Yeah, I like chili too. Ground venison makes really good chili. Can I do a meal on that video? You know what? Maybe I can I can see if I can do a short on it, because That is a lot of information to do a big video, but I'll see about doing a short on it for you guys. Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple meal, and it's one that I kind of put together to use some of our preps. Gosh, what else do I do a lot of? Pancakes is another one that I do quite a bit of because my wife, she's got borderline celiac. I do a lot. I One of the things that that's the gluten free that we really like is the Krusty's pancake mix, and basically one package makes a meal, and then we usually have it with some kind of fruit, and then whatever I happen to have around. It might be sausage, it might be smoked sausage, it might be bacon, whatever I got to go along with that. Sometimes ham, we'll slice that up and have that with it. But those gluten-free pancakes from that Krusty's brand is actually really good. And like I said, with some canned fruit or like canned apple butter, boy, that's good stuff right there. Yeah, my freezer, as soon as it warms up outside, it is going to get cleaned out. It hasn't. I haven't defrosted and cleaned it out in a couple of years, so it's going to get a thorough cleaning. Henhouse, I got a sale on AMZ, some cheap Baofeng radios for like $18 a radio. Stocking up on those. Get my license this year. Yeah, Henhouse, if you, well, you're not supposed to use a regular Baofeng for a GMRS, but I don't know how they would tell the difference because the GMRS frequencies, you can actually program those into Baofeng radios. So the GMRS frequencies are easy enough to look up, and it's like $35 for a GMRS license for the entire family for, I believe it's 10 years. And that's why I got that, because the whole family can use that call sign. I just wrote the call sign on the back of the radio, so they can call out the call sign to make it, legal and whatever to use. But there's a lot of folks that use that stuff that don't really follow the rules on that to a certain extent. But I found that GMRS, when I applied for that here a little over a year ago, I find it to be pretty darn helpful for us here. Oh, tamales. I do have a tamale video. I have made tamales already. Tamales are one of those things you spend the whole day doing it. Actually, you got to do more than a day because you got to cook the pork the night before because you need all the drippings from the pork to make the. Anyway, um, you spend the whole day, you make a whole bunch of tamales, and then you freeze those suckers up, and then you use them for the next, month or whatever. But yeah, tamales are something that when I make them, I make a huge batch of them. Yeah, no problem, hen house, anytime. Oh, they killing the ads again. I'm sorry, man. I just don't have any control over that. Oh, Tony Satcheries. Yeah, I got probably 4 pounds of Tony Satcheries here. It's one of the Tony Satcheries and Slap Your Mama. Those Creole seasonings, they're good in moderation. They last forever because they got so much salt in it, and we actually use quite a bit of Cajun and Creole seasoning. I like that Tony Satcheries or that Slap Your Mama on chicken just baked on a sheet pan in the oven with just that, nothing else. And that just makes a good all purpose seasoning. And I also use it in rice. I'll use it in, if I make like a homemade jambalaya and stuff like that, I'll use that Tony Satcheries and I'll use that Slap Your Mama Cajun seasoning. That stuff's good stuff. And like I said, I have never, ever. I've had some Tony Satcheries that was in a container where the container started to fade because it was so old, and the seasoning was still just as good as the stuff you just bought the day before. I've had nothing but good luck with that stuff. Mrs. Dash too, and you can get Mrs. Dash in if it's for the people that don't like salt. Mrs. Dash is excellent on potatoes, and they have it in different grinds. You can get it like in a table grind that's really fine because some people don't like the chunks in or whatever. But Mrs. Dash and potatoes is good. And another thing, you can mix Mrs. Dash into like butter, and then you could take those pads of butter with the seasoning on and add that to other stuff, whatever that you're cooking. Carrots or whatever, that's actually really good too. It's just sort of a what I do. Mom taught me how to do that back in the day. You take the Mrs. Stash, or you take like herbs out of the garden, whatever. You crush that up fine, or you cut that up fine, and you mix that into softened butter, and then you put that on wax paper. You roll it up into like a tube, and then you freeze it. And then whenever you want, and the tubes are probably about that big around. So then whenever you need a pad of that, you cut a pad of that off, and then you put that into whatever. It's basically like a seasoned butter, and we would use that on all kinds of stuff. And you just kept it in the freezer, and whenever you needed it, you just cut off a slice. Uh, I love jambalaya. How is the Old Bay? Old Bay seasoning has a tendency to be pretty spicy, and I like Old Bay seasoning. Like if I'm making shrimp or seafood, Old Bay is sort of the go-to, but you got to watch it because it can get pretty hot. And if you got somebody that doesn't like the real spicy stuff, I like to keep my heat at medium to mild, basically. But the Tony Chachere's and like the Slap Your Mama, I don't think is as spicy as the Tony Chachere's, but I kind of watch the heat level so everybody kind of gets enjoyment out of the meal. But like I said, if I had to pick one all-purpose seasoning, it would be probably one of those Cajun seasonings, one of those Creole seasonings. I'll have to try that, Paul. I have heard of that, but I don't recall ever buying that. The Amish actually put together a Cajun seasoning over there at Country View Bulk Foods, if I remember right, and I remember that not being too bad either. Need to smoke some meat. Yeah, I my smoker, I my thermometer broke in my smoker, so I'm kind of waiting to get a new one of those. We've got them at work, but I got to take it out because I got to have the right size to go through that tempered glass that's on the front of the smoker. Because you really should have a thermometer in your smoker because a lot depends on the temperature of what you're smoking because there's hot smoke and there's cold smoke. There's stuff that when you smoke it, you want to cook it, and then there's other stuff you just want to smoke it for the flavor and then cook it afterward. And there is a difference. There is a big difference. Um, I've been working on my dare I say it, my Clash. I've been working on my Clash to get that up to spec. Well, it's not a, how do I want to say this? It's not my go-to. I think everybody needs to know how to run a Clash, just like an AR or some of the more common domestic shotguns like your Mossberg 500s, your Remington 870s. Your more common pistols, like a Glock and a Smith and Wesson. Those type things. Everybody should be as familiar as possible with those because you just never know what you might run across in a sort of a long-term situation. But I got one here. I've had four over the years. I only got one now, but I wanted to kind of bring it up to date because it was pretty basic, pretty stock, and my eyes are kind of giving me problems with those front buckhorn sights have been giving me problems. Not the peep sights that sits back by my eye, but the ones that sit up on the barrel, and it doesn't matter really what kind of firearm that is. So I've been transitioning over to more like red dots because it's much easier with my eyes to see. So that's the one thing that I was working on a little bit this morning. I kind of got that in the ballpark. I want to take it out a couple more times and get it straightened around. So who knows? Maybe I'll get a video done on that for you guys sometimes too. Uh, yeah, I don't. Yeah, Hudson Valley. It's an electric Pit Boss combo gas grill, charcoal and electric smoker. Mine is a no-name propane um, smoker off Amazon because it's all I need is a metal box, a thermometer, and a burner so I can adjust the temperature. And then I need a smoke bowl to put my chips in. I've always had really good luck with gas smokers because I can regulate the temperature. I mean, heck, I've done videos where I've smoked stuff just backyard in the fire pit. The only thing with that traditional kind of primitive smoking, you have a harder time to regulate your temperatures. But I've done everything from fish to jerky to sausage, just outside in a tripod, covered up with a wet drop cloth, and you got a hole in the bottom where you put your wet chips in once you start your fire, and you got to have a little bit of hole in the top so it draws the smoke across the meat. But a basic smoker can be a real benefit because you can make your own sausage, you can stuff your own sausage and put a little smoke to it, or you can buy sausage from somebody that you like and you can put a little smoke onto it. You can smoke stuff like fish, you can smoke a turkey for the holidays, you can make jerky, you can make summer sausage, and an actual summer sausage, if it's done right and it's hard smoked, that stuff will keep without refrigeration, so that's good stuff. Patrice, I saute garlic, let it cook completely, add softened butter along with the herbs, and make it into a log like MR. Cool. Yeah, that sounds good too. Yeah, I actually make my own, Joe, there. I make my own pickling spice. Pickling spice is something that it seemed like every time I went looking for pickling spice, I couldn't find any. So I ended up just buying some coriander seeds and buying some of the stuff to make it. And I just started making my own. Whenever I need it, I just start making it up if I'm canning something or if I want to make uh, I can't think of it, corned beef. So if I can find it, then I just make my own and make it as I go. Think about getting an AR-10. Don't have much use for my 300 Win Mag here. 300 Win Mag will turn something inside out. That is that's a big knocker right there. You can knock down some big stuff with a 300 Win Mag. I've had a 308 for years. My 308's an M1A, an M1A Springfield. I got it back in 2011, and that's what I got. That's what I took my bear with was that because we were shooting at pretty close range, so I just used the iron sights on it. But that's another one that's scheduled to get a quality red dot at some point because of my eyes. But that I've shot that out to 400 yards with iron sights, and I've had pretty decent success with it. That's a good cartridge. I think 308 is one of your good kind of all-purpose North American cartridges because if you select the right bullet, you can take anything from a bear to a deer to an elk with any of them. You just kind of change your bullet up a little bit. What type of meats do you smoke in your smoker? I've done everything. I've smoked steaks just for flavor. I've made different sausages. I mean, I've made kielbasa, I've made kibasi, I've made just regular German sausage and then smoked it. I've smoked hams. I've made like Canadian bacon. I've smoked turkeys. We used to smoke turkeys all the time for the holidays. We'd fill the big old smokehouse out to mom and dad's right full, and we would smoke them all for the holidays for different people. Now with just my little smoker in the backyard, I just do basic small ones. But uh, like summer sausage, you can pack summer sausage into muslin casings and you can smoke those. And jerky is something that gets smoked a lot. I've done what they call Landjagers, and what a Landjager is it's like a beer stick or a summer sausage stuff, and you put it in a brat size casing and you smoke it. So it's like a hunter sausage is what, and that's actually what Landjager is in German. Landjager is a hunter sausage, and they're basically just like a beer stick that you can just stick in your pocket, and when you're out hunting, you can eat them when you're sitting in the blind or whatever, and they're just a little bit hardier than what like an actual beer stick is. But basically it's a summer sausage stuff, and you can add, if you like it a little spicier, you add some red pepper flake into it. You like a little more mustard seed, you add a little bit more mustard seed in it. It's not they're not difficult to make. Probably the most difficult thing to do when you're making those type of sausages is stuffing them in the casings. It takes a little bit of finesse to, and it usually, I have to get one of one of the family members to help me run the stuffer. And I got an actual cast iron sausage stuffer that you crank, but then I have the attachment for the grill or the grill. I got grill on my brain. I um, the grinder. I've got the sausage horn. I got sausage horns for a couple of different of my grinders where you have to soak this is sausage 101 here. Sausage casings come in different sizes. The small ones are sheep casings. The ones that are brat size, I think that's the size that brats and like kielbasa and stuff. Those are hog casings. That's the size that is. And then beef casings are larger, like if they're doing bolognas or something like that. I've never done anything like that. I've only ever used hog casings because they're so readily available. I can go up to my local grocery store that has a meat counter, say, hey, I need to buy some hog casings, and they'll sell me what's called a hank. And a hank is a package of your hog casings, and they're typically packed in either like a brine or they're dry packed in a salt. And I will actually get the dry packed ones in a salt. And what you do then is you just put them in the freezer and you take out whatever length that you need when you're making sausage, and you're going to soak that in warm water, and you're going to kind of flush that out to get the salt and stuff out of it and to loosen it up. And you're going to loosen up that casing. And then the horn, the sausage horn that goes on a sausage stuffer or a grinder is just a tube. And the old tubes used to be aluminum, and the new ones are either, if it's fancy, it's stainless steel, or if it's not, it's some kind of plastic. And what you do is you get your hog casing nice and wet. So you're going to slop it in there good, and you're going to slide it over that horn. And then when it's slid over that horn, somebody has to run the grinder or the stuffer, and they're gonna usually you'll already have your meat ground once to mix all the seasonings in, and then you're going to grind it a second time, and then they start grinding it, forcing it in the grinder. That fills up the horn. Then the guy that's actually making the sausage will pinch off the one end of it, and he will it goes by feel. When you feel that casing starting to fill up to the right amount, then you bring out the sausage, and then however long you want to make it. Like if it's just you're just making kielbasa or something, you just leave it in one solid piece. But if you want to make individual sausages, you're only when you get about it's about so long, however long you want to make it, you pinch off that end, you give it a little twist, and then you fill the next one. You give it a little twist, and you just keep going like that. And you just spin it around in a circle on your counter, or if you got like one of those stainless steel sinks or something like that to do it on. You just kind of you curl that up, and then when it gets down to the end, you twist off the end, and then you're done. That's basically how you do the sausage stuff. And some sausages, you want it to cure a little bit, so you're going to grind all the seasoning and stuff in it, and then you're going to let it set for 24 hours before you stuff it. You typically will put a little bit of water in the grinder, and you want to keep the casing and the sausage horn wet so that everything smoothly moves. So there you go. There's your sausage 101. And most sausages will be a combination of meat. Some of them are all pork, but some of them you put beef in. Some of them you might even put veal in if you're feeling really fancy. Stephen Ross, hey, our apologies. I'm a newbie question. I'm new to pew pews. Can you explain how a red dot improves over a traditional scope? Excuse me. I need reading glasses. Looking through a scope is hard. A red dot is a light in a tube. So if you don't have like really bad stigmatism or anything, like I wear glasses to read, and I wear glasses to read stuff on my phone, like reading the the live chat here. I got to have my glasses on, otherwise it's blurry, because when I hit 50, my eyesight went to crap. But I can still see really good at distance. So typically a red dot is a little bit further from your eye than the scope is, so it has more. A red dot has indefinite eye relief because there's no magnification. So if you can picture a toilet paper tube with a Christmas light in it, that's what a red dot is. And a red dot is a very fast acquisition, and you don't have to line up multiple sight planes. So like when you're on an iron sight, you have to sort of focus a little bit on your target, a little bit on your front sight, and a little bit on your rear sight, keep everything in alignment. And that gets difficult as age creeps up on us. And magnified scopes, The more magnification you have, what happens is I don't like really high magnification because then every little movement is magnified and your crosshairs are going to be doing one of these numbers because it's magnifying every little movement that you make. And if I have a high magnification scope, I will actually turn it down to 4 or no higher than 6 because that amplifies the mistakes. But the red dot is always clear. You pick that up and you see that red dot, you put it over your target, you squeeze the trigger, and that's it. It's much simpler than a lot of the other, I guess, shooting disciplines. And as I age, I find that I like shooting red dots more, and I'm a lot more accurate with red dots, especially at the distances that I shoot under 100 yards most of the time. When we hunt around here, it's in brush. It's not like out west where you're shooting across a mountain valley. Michigan deer hunting isn't like that. Most Michigan deer are taken within 100 yards. And then, of course, when you're shooting home defense, home protection, whatever, that's all going to be close range stuff. So you want fast sight acquisition. So that's why, red dots are, I think, kind of the wave of the future. Of course, they're not really the wave of the future. There's been red dots around for 25 years already or longer, but I like them. I'm transitioning to most of my serious stuff has some type of red dot on it. Ah. Sausage making playlist. Thank you, Monkey Food Garden. I appreciate you putting that up there. Ah. Miss Mary's in here. How you doing, Miss Mary? Catching up here. I'm late. It was 90 degrees here in Texas today. You know what? My knees would probably like about 75 or 80-degree temperatures, but we still got several months yet before we get any of them. Maybe in May if we're lucky. Ah. That was the best description of a red dot I've ever heard. Yeah, I don't know if it was that good or not, but I guess that's just my interpretation of it. And if you're going to get a high end red dot, I've got one aim point and I've got one Trijicon RMR. And if I had to pick one to put on a long gun, it'd probably be an aim point. That aim point PRO I have knocked that thing around and I have used it a ton, and I have nothing but praise for that. That aim point PRO is a heck of a, and that's actually considered a old school red dot. That isn't even the most like up to date technological one that there is now. But you turn it on and you leave it for the batteries are good for like 3 years, and like every year and a half or so, I switch a battery out of it. And yeah, when you have an aim point, you turn it on and you leave it on. Yeah, and a red dot will co-witness with iron sights. So if you have your iron sights, you have your red dot sitting between your rear sight and your front sight. Where they have what they call a co-witness, where you can confirm your zero and you can confirm that your red dot is on, and that's actually a really good setup too. Uh, CV Farmer, I have a big gasoline generator, but I want to have something in case gasoline isn't available. I could have bought a tri-fuel generator, but then I'm relying on natural gas. I converted mine over to a propane because you can store propane indefinitely. You can get 100-pound cylinders. I've got a couple 100-pound cylinders that I keep just for emergencies, and then I have a couple that I run. Plus, I can run my generator on a grill tank if I have to, or a 40 pounder or whatever's available because I got different hookups here. I can run on that. And for me, that's actually worked really, really well. Always the big thing with me with like anything solar related is, I live up north. I'm quite a ways north. So a couple of months of the year, like from November through January, it's dark a majority of the time. So then, those 3 months of the year to try to get anything to charge solar would be extremely difficult. And, propane with its ability to be stored indefinitely, plus I can use it to, cook with, I can use it to heat with, I can use it to run the generator. I can use propane for a bunch of different things. That's why it's sort of my preferred fuel. But, every person's got to look at their own situation and find out, what's the best. Oh yeah. Nothing wrong with of course, it's still illegal in Michigan. It was legal, then it was not illegal, and then it was illegal again, and that's baiting for deer. But I think that they're gonna open up the baiting for deer back again. I call it turning carbohydrates into protein. You put out a few apples, you put out a little bit of corn, and then you get a deer. You turn those apples into meat, basically. But I don't know, the Michigan legislature and the Michigan DNR is quite the thing. I'm not even going to get into it, but drops, homestead, CV farmer, my generators, dual fuel, gas and propane. Yeah, I switched mine over. They make what they call, if you have a gasoline generator, there's a company called US Carburation out of Tennessee, and they make what they call a motor snorkel. And that motor snorkel is a conversion kit where it converts just a general carbureted generator over to propane, and I have had zero issues with it. I absolutely love it. And I like it too because it's easier for my wife to start the generator and my children because the generator had like a 6 or 7 gallon gas tank on the top. When that was full of gas, that was hard for me to move, much less, the wife and the children. But when it runs on propane, you just got a propane tank, and I keep my 100-pound propane tank strapped to an appliance cart. So then I can just move that around where I need it. Then I move the generator where around do I need it, and I'm good to go. And I don't have that extra weight from the fuel in the generator to move it around, and it's about half the weight. So I got nothing but praise for a propane conversion kit for generators. Uh, And two, if you got gasoline generators, you got to watch the fuel you put in them. Don't run any ethanol in them. That comes straight from my mechanic friend that I got it there at work. Most of the generators that come into the shop to get serviced have some kind of problem with the fuel, and most of it is because it had some kind of ethanol fuel that was left in it, and it gummed up the carburetor, ruins the carburetor, and that's bad news all the way around. And that's the other thing with that motor snorkel. If for some reason I want to disconnect that and run just regular gasoline, I can do that too. During COVID, they wouldn't even let you buy garden seeds. That's nuts. Yeah, that had a lot to do with our Governor Whitmer. She said, "Oh, close down the garden centers because nobody needs to go buy patio furniture." That was her mindset of what a garden center was patio furniture, because I seen kind of the local reports and stuff on that, and then they were like, "Oh well, oh man, it's March. That's when people plant their own food. Oh, we forgot about that." That's what happens when you let college educated people run the government that don't know how to do anything practical. There you go. That's a perfect example. And what's the old saying go? Don't explain things or don't attribute things to malice that can be explained by ignorance. There you go. That was the perfect example right there. I'm not a big Whitmer fan. We haven't had a decent governor in Michigan since Engler. At least that's my opinion. How long is the run time off a 100-pound tank? Used conservatively, and I'm saying not running all the time, just running it when you need to, you can get a week off a 100-pound cylinder if you run it conservatively. So if you have 400-pound cylinders, you have a month's worth of fuel stored up. And I'm talking, you kick it on every once in a while to run the furnace in the house, or to make sure that the stuff is still frozen, or if you want to cook things, or if you want to run the wash machine to do some laundry. And then when you're done, you turn it off, and you revert back to battery operated stuff and that kind of stuff, like battery operated lights and that kind of thing. But if you use it sparingly, you can get a week on a 100-pounder. Now you ain't going to get a week if you run it 24/7. That's for sure. But if you do your due diligence, you can get quite a long time out of a 100-pound cylinder. Uh, I like propane, and I've had people say, "Oh, propane doesn't have any power in it when you run it in a generator." I've never noticed a difference. I'm sure there probably is, but I have never noticed a difference running the stuff that I want to run with my propane generator. MR, did you hear that they are talking about doing away with the bottle deposit? Well, nobody, you know what's killing that is none of the stores will take the bottles anymore. They make you stand out there and you do the work to count all the bottles into a machine. That's what's killing the bottle deposit thing. It's not a bad idea. It does reduce, littering and that kind of stuff. And that was the whole point behind it. But now, everything's a self service, you got to pump your own gas. Yeah, that's what's killing that is, everybody's got to stand out in an unheated, usually in an unheated part of the store to throw your bottles into a machine that only works about half the time, and then it fills up, and it's killing that whole bottle deposit thing. Mark, I work for the largest freedom seed factory in the country. Stock up on your freedom seeds. I think that's good advice all the way around. I shot the old Kalash today, and I had to dip into a little bit of my stockpile on that because they ain't bringing no Russian ammo in anymore, and the Russian ammo was kind of what those guns shoot. So that was sort of my go-to. But I seen where there could be a problem with that down the road, especially as time went on, especially after 2015. So I grabbed as much Tula as I could afford to grab, and that helps me out. But yeah, I would agree with that, Mark. Well, Mark, I'll tell you, starting about 2006, I could see where ammunition was going to be an issue in the future, and every payday, I bought a box of shells and put them up, and I did that for decades. I did that till I'm going to say probably about 2020 is when I stopped doing it because I figured I was good to go at that point. And at that point, whenever I shot something up, I bought to replace what I shot up, just like my pantry to stay at a level. And that's always worked for me. So, we go out on a shooting weekend, whatever. Me and Uncle Bumble go out, me and Mama go out, whatever. And we burn up a couple hundred rounds. I go replace it with a couple hundred rounds and put it back on the shelf. And that's just how I run it. I run my pantry the exact same way I run my ammo stores. Uh, I have enough heirloom seeds. I have grown to power a city with victory gardens. Awesome. Oh yeah, well, as soon as I'll probably go get Works tiller. Works got a really big tiller that they ran out, and one of my fringe benefits of working there is I can use, if nobody's got any of the rental equipment reserved, I can use it for nothing. So I'm gonna grab that big old rototiller and I'm gonna put a big old till on both my main garden beds as soon as the ground thaws out enough and it isn't sloppy and muddy. I'm going to go through and knock everything down and work everything up, and then I'm going to be all set then when I want to get my potatoes and my onions in. Stupid question. Do freedom seeds go bad? No. If they're stored properly, the only time they're going to go bad is if they get humidity in them or if they get moisture in them. Then you're going to have issues. Um, I keep all my stuff in. I take well, not all of it, but most of it I'll take out of the cardboard boxes that they come in, and I'll put them in metal ammo cans with desiccant packets, silica desiccant packets to absorb the moisture out of it. And then too, my pantry and stuff down the basement, we run dehumidifiers in here to keep everything as climate controlled as possible. And that's I've never had an issue with any bad ammo. Oh yeah, Tula. The Tula that I used to get, it was like $7 for a 40 round box of 7.62 by 39, and that was 90% of what I stocked up on. I don't ever recall ever buying a brass case, a, any brass case 7.62 by 39 ammo. Drops Homestead. I probably need to buy some new butcher knives and some reloading stuff. Um, I my knives that are all hanging up behind me there, those are what I use to cut up deer and stuff with, or turkeys or geese or whatever we happen to get. I just use my regular survival knives to cut up most of that stuff. So kind of the deal on that. And as far as reloading stuff, I don't reload. The only thing that I do keep on hand are 209 primers, and 209 primers are the shotgun shell primer. And if you have a little bit of black powder and you have some, BBs for kids' BB guns, and you have 209 primers and you save your plastic shotgun shell um, casings, you can take a punch and a couple of washers, set that shell up on a couple of washers, take a punch that primer out. You can put a new primer in there. You can do a square load, and a square load is 100 grains of black powder and 100 grains of BBs, pour that in there, take a little cotton for a wadding, shove that down in the top. If you really want to be fancy, you could seal that up with something like a little boar butter or a little Crisco, and you can touch it off. The only thing of it is when you use that in a modern shotgun, you're going to have to take your shotgun barrel off and run water through it because black powder is corrosive. But technically, if you got 209 primers, you can more or less reload your own shotgun shells if you have to. The only thing that I know that you would need is you'd need a couple of washers to set the shell on. You need a punch to push out that primer, and you need some type of powder measure. And then the powder measure can double for the measure for the BBs as well. And then if you could get a bag of like 6 lead shot, that's even better yet, because that's a lot more universal. Uh, Brass 7.62. Yeah, I've never seen really cheap 7.62 by 39 brass. Like I said, it was either Tula or Wolf that I use. The neighbor, he uses what do they call that? The other animal, tiger, golden tiger, brown bear, those kind of, he's got that kind of stuff. He got a lot of it from somebody that he knew, but I just stuck with the basic Tula. But now pretty much Wolf is about the only thing that I can get. I did see some Norinco at a couple of the shops around here, but the thing with the Norinco is I don't trust the Chinese. I don't trust that that's not corrosive, because I can't read the writing that's on the freaking package. The only thing that I can read on there is the Norinco. Uh, Vacuum sealed oxygen absorbers. That's with anything, if you can keep oxygen away, you can keep oxygen away from stuff, you're good to go. I think probably, if you really wanted to do something like that, I would think putting 22 shells into a mason jar, and then if you have one of those attachments to suck all the oxygen out of that, store 22 shells in a mason jar with no oxygen in them. I think they would keep, 1,000 years from now, they'll dig them up in a archaeological dig, and they'll still be viable. Yeah, Scout. If gunpowder gets too dry, it's more. I think it's that's the. I think I've heard that before. Um, I would love to do a video on reloading a shotgun shell, but I'm afraid that YouTube would absolutely have better not say it that way, have a fit. So I'm not. I don't really want to do anything like that. I mean, I can tell you guys kind of how to do it, then you guys can do your own research and look that stuff up for yourself. But that's why, and that's another reason. You see all the videos of why, oh, one gun for SHTF or whatever, and it's an AR, or it's an AK or whatever, but that's why I like shotguns, because there's a certain amount of things you can do with shotguns that you can't do with other. Yeah, you can't shoot 300 yards with a shotgun, but there's some things that you can do in really austere environments with a shotgun if you have a little bit of skill, and you don't even have to be, like a world champion reloader or anything like that. But that is uh, that is something that you can do, though. And if I got high brass shotgun shells that have the longer piece of brass on them, not the little short guys, but the longer piece. Those are usually tougher. Those are tougher shells. I will typically keep them. So, like if somebody's shooting waterfowl and they got 3-inch steel shot that have the long brass on it, or if somebody's shooting slugs, I will save those casings just for that specific reason, because those are a lot tougher and can handle a little bit of abuse if you wanted to reload them in an austere environment. Uh, I use a cotton wad for shotgun shells I make, same as you described. Yeah, um, it's boar butter is what they used to call it. I don't know if what they still call it that, but boar butter was basically it's like a natural lubricant that they use for muzzle loaders, and it smells kind of like wintergreen and it's yellow. But you can use Crisco too. Crisco will seal up a shotgun shell, plus it lubes the barrel when it's going out the barrel. You can also shoot 38 rounds in a 357, but not 357 and 38. The thing about that is if you shoot a large amount of 38 specials in a 357 revolver, what'll happen is you'll get a fouling ring inside the cylinder at that 38 special length. And then when you go to try to put a 357 shell in after that, that's actually going to hang up on that fouling ring that a 38 made. So, as a general rule, yes, you can do that. You can use both in there, but you want to keep your cylinder clean, and you don't really want to switch back and forth in the middle of something when you're shooting, because if you shoot 300 rounds of 38 special out of that revolver and then you try to put in a full bore 357 in there, that's going to hang up, and I'll guarantee it because I've seen it multiple times on my own 357. So please, people, keep that in mind. Yes, they will work back and forth, but that's something that you got to kind of figure into that. Oh yeah, I remember those Lee hand loaders. I actually know somebody who's got one of those, and he actually was loading rifle ammo with it, but I never got that far into it. Yeah, very much so, Monkey Food Garden, very much so. Yeah, the thing with shotguns is you don't change the shotgun, you change the ammunition. You know, if you want to shoot a deer or bear, you use a slug. You want to shoot a goose, you use BB shot. You want to shoot turkey, you know, you use a heavy load 5 shot. You know, you want to shoot rabbits or squirrels, you know, you use 6s or 7 low brass. You know, so it just all depends. If you want to shoot coyotes, you can do coyotes with a heavy turkey load, but as a general rule, something heavier. You know, buckshot is extremely effective if it's used within inside its limitation. The problem with buckshot is with deer hunt. A lot of people will scorn deer hunters that use buckshot because they shoot it too far. If you shoot buckshot inside 25 yards, it's lethal as hell. But if you try to shoot at a running deer 75 yards with buckshot and you only clip it with 1 or 2 pellets and just knock it down and don't, you know, and then you're out tracking it for days on end, then the people they scorn buckshot, but that's because they used it outside of its limitations. But if you know its limitations and you know where it's good, buckshot is extremely effective. Dave Canterbury has a hand reloading video on shotgun shells. That's good to know. I had to step out. I met a guy mentioned wanting an AR-10. I bought a PSA Gen 3 a few years ago. I liked it so well, I sold my M1A Squad Scout. My M1A is full length. I got the full length one. There's a reason I got the full length one. That's got a chrome line barrel. All my serious firearms have chrome line barrels. ARs, my 2 serious ARs, chrome line barrels. AK, chrome line barrel. Beretta, chrome line barrel. SIG, chrome line barrel. The only ones that I don't are the Glocks. The Glocks don't have chrome line barrels, but pretty much most of my it just makes a more durable weapon in adverse conditions. And I was always really conscious of that when I was selling firearms back in the day and stuff. So, uh, oh, no problem, boss. I hope you're getting something out of my live stream here. That's why I do them. You know, I just kind of I freestyle it when I'm live streaming. I don't use no script. I just talk about what I think's important or pertinent in the, you know, in the moment. And then you guys ask questions. I try to answer them to the best of my ability. If I don't know, I'll tell you for sure. But if I have any experience in it, I just share my experiences, you know, and that seems to be the winning I always get about 100 people that always jump in on my live streams, and I always do them on. I alternate them on the weekend, so if folks want to go to church or something on Sunday evening, they're not bothered with my live stream. But I'll do one week I'll do on Saturday, the next week I do on Sunday, and then usually once during the week I'll do a pop up live stream if something's comes up to mind that I want to talk about, or I had some experience that I want to share, or there's something going on in the world that I think we need to talk about, kind of like what's going on over in the Middle East right now, and that's why I do these guys. I do not have a suppressor, and the reason I first of all, I don't know if I want to spend the money on a suppressor. I'm not sure in my because I'm not a young guy anymore. I got to be fair with myself. I'm not going to be kicking doors down in some post-apocalyptic quick response force or anything like that. And then two, all my firearms that I would want a suppressor for are all too long. So, my ARs have 16-inch barrels on them because I never wanted to go through the hassle of having a registered SBR or anything like that. So now, if I had a suppressor onto a 16-inch barrel AR, it's longer than my M16A2 clone with a 20-inch barrel. It's longer than that. So now I'm using this, big old long thing with a suppressor on it. It's just I don't see the need for it. I guess there is a purpose for them, and I don't have anything against them. And if people want to have them, have at her, man. This is America. But for me, it's just kind of not my thing, I guess. But like I said, if I don't have any, and personally, I guess too, where I think it would be nice to have one would be maybe on like a 22. You want to be quiet if you're like taking out squirrels or rabbits or something like that, and you want to be a little bit more quiet about that. I think that would maybe be for me would be the most likely use. But then again, I probably don't have anything that I would have to get a whole nother platform to set up something like that, and there's other things that I guess I need more. So I guess that's how I look at it. But if you people want them, have at it, man. Like I said, this is America. Uh, oh yeah, my father-in-law was too. He was actually a state champion. Father and mother-in-law both were state champion skeet shooters, and they reloaded a lot of their own ammunition. They had one of the reloading setups because back then reloading saved you a lot of money than just buying them off the shelf. But those days are sort of gone now. Yeah, primers. I've seen where people had primers like from 20 years ago and they show the price tag compared to what today's price tag is, and it's absolutely crazy. Oh yeah, a red dot with an etched reticle is that's a good idea. That's a good idea to have too. That's why I like my ACOG. Yeah, it's got the trillium in it, and eventually the trillium will go out on it, but the reticle's etched, so I still have the fiber optic on the top to light up the chevron in there. So that's good to go. And I actually have my one Leupold on my DMR is it's it's got the mill dots crosshair with the mill dots, but then the center one is actually a green dot, and but it's etched. So I still got my regular crosshairs and stuff, but the middle dot will light up, and it's the shake awake deal. So when you leave it on, but then when you pick it up, the movement actually turns the scope on. So then you have your green dot. That's kind of a nice setup too, because you got the best of both worlds. You got your red dot for the illumination, but then you got your etch reticle if that doesn't work. So it's good to go. Lucas Meyer, thanks for the live stream. Spend a day in upstate New York lake ice fishing. That sounds awesome. Could hear fellow preppers in the distance shooting a massive amount of ammo. Yeah, I was the only one out today actually making noise. I got out as early as I possibly could because, like I said, I wanted to get that thing in the ballpark, and I got it where I want it now. But I usually do like when I sight something in, it usually takes 3 trips because the first one I get it in the ballpark, and then the next two I fine tune them down to exactly where I want them to be. Plus, you check the whether the mounts shift or anything like that. So, well, guys, I was on here a little bit longer this time. It was a really good conversation. I appreciate each and every one of you guys stopping by here, spending a little time with me this evening. The other thing is, kind of keep an eye on everything this week. There's just so many things going on. But I expect more escalation there in the Middle East. I expect more problems. I can expect oil to go up. I mean, I didn't really see anything crazy like panic buying or anything going on like that right now. I don't know if that'll actually come to that. But I'm in Michigan here, so there's a fairly large community in southern Michigan that you never know what can come of that. So it's always a heightened sense of awareness is always your best bet with these types of situations. And then two, keep an eye on any type of cyber issues, communications, banking, both all those things are possible problems this week. I want everybody to kind of be aware and keep that in the back of their mind. But anyway, this is Modern Refugee. Appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys always get some information, some entertainment out of our videos and chats. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. You guys have a good one.